Oh, yeah. Please, folks, sign in so we can have attendance record of who's here. I appreciate all of you coming out in this lovely weather. And Happy New Year to everyone. So let's call to order approval of minutes. Could I get a motion from anyone to approve the minutes of November 21st? Oh, okay. Were they sent out?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, they were sent out.
Okay, folks, we usually send them out. I apologize.
They were sent out. They were sent out.
They're saying they didn't get them.
I'll check with you.
All right.
By email?
On the left side.
Guess we can put that on hold. Interim Program Agency Coordinator.
We've been working on getting the medical control training from University of Rochester set up. We've gone through that. We've identified the slides that need to be updated for our region. Jack and I are going to sit down and go through and redo the voiceovers for those slides so that they're pertinent for us. And then they should be, that training should be sent out in the next 2 to 3 weeks for all doctors in the area to take and become credentialed medical control. That's been our primary project.
All right. Anything else you want to bring forth? All right. Are you reporting for FLCC?
Classes are up and running. We had one daytime class that did not go. We have to have at least 7 in a class. At the very minimal, we'd like to have 10. Other than that, there's not much going on. Paramedics registered last night. I think we had 30 registered. Hopefully 32 registered. And hopefully we have 32 graduate in the year.
That's a large class. I hope that's changing what we've been seeing. And I'd be happy if we got 16 of them through. That would be a great number. Well, I mean that. Okay. I'd really love to see 32. All right. Medical Director, I am seeing the remnants of the current class finishing up their physician and time with me. I've been pretty pleased with them. They seem to have moved ahead pretty good. The guys are asking good questions. They're kind of active in the ED. So I think the ones we're putting out this class are looking pretty good. And so they can get through their clinical times and their ride times. I think we'll have a good group. Was very happy to attend, excuse me, the January 18 CMAC meeting recently. And there's been not a huge amount of activity at the state level. They're moving ahead on BLS protocols and a lot of input from the EMSC folks. Those of you that know Elise Vandiat, Elise has become active with EMS in New York State. So the report went from about the usual 10 minutes to about 45 minutes. So I expect a lot of pediatric input on adult and pediatric BLS protocols. Education and training didn't bring forth any motions. For those of you who are not aware, Lee Burns has retired from the state after 30-something years. We attended her party, so it sounds like it's definite she's gone. Andy Johnson is the acting Bureau Director. His position as Associate or Assistant Bureau Director, as well as Lee's position, I guess, are still up to be filled, and we don't know who will be filling those spots. The EMT age has been 18 years of age. That's going to be dropped to 17, hoping to get some more high school age students involved in EMS.
But not yet.
Okay, good point.
But not yet.
It has not been approved yet by the commissioner.
Still
So
up for public comment.
soon, actually.
And,
March.
yeah,
Yeah, so we may see that by the end of the year. Been some change in the instructor's hours from 6 to 8 hours. They're working on a state EMTCC bridge, paramedic bridge program. We hope to see that in the next year. And that was pretty much it from education. So, as you might recall, years ago it took about 8 years to decide what hypoglycemia was at the state level. The current discussion is what is the age of a pediatric patient. in regards to EMS. And the current decision, based on a lot of discussion, was that it would be up to the age of 15. So at your 15th birthday and above, you are now considered an adult patient. So that's for EMS.
But again, it hasn't been voted on.
So where's the impact of that? Because if you bring somebody into Thompson and we don't get an inpatient pediatric service, we consider 17 and
Right,
younger
right.
pediatric.
It shouldn't affect you because you're going to still follow your rules, regs, policies, whatever. But from the pre-hospital side, they will treat them as pediatrics up to their 15th birthday.
So it
Specific protocols?
transitions weight-based to protocol-based dosing primarily.
So they could still bring them to you, knowing that if they need to be admitted, we're treating them as a pediatric patient, but even though they're a peds in our eyes, you would admit them as long as they're over the age of 17.
18 and older.
18, so. It will confuse matters a little bit, but hopefully we'll get through it. Sir?
How does that affect sign-offs? You're going to tell someone that's 16 that's an adult still can't?
Just for medicine, that's
Yeah.
It's just for,
Yeah, and that's a really good question, and that may confuse some people, but that is when it is, you're talking about when is a patient considered adult, and they can take matters into their own hands, versus whether we treat them with a pediatric dose or an adult dose. Yeah.
Remember, it's not voted on.
None, my attorney says it's not voted on yet, so it's not happening yet. We'll let you know when it does. But yeah, there's a lot of questions now because it confuses a little bit. When can someone be admitted at a certain hospital? When do we use pediatric protocols versus adult protocols? When can they sign off? And keep in mind that you also need to keep their status as an emancipated minor or not, if they've been pregnant. There's so many other things that fit into those questions. It's just one more thing that we'll ponder about. Medical standards met. The Mercy Flight protocols were approved. There was some discussion on the BLS protocols. There's some discussion about stroke designated centers. Currently, the state is doing those designations. They're looking at possibly passing that off to an outside group like they did with the American College of Surgeons for Trauma Centers. It's not happening yet. All right. What else? Okay. Then there were some other things that really don't affect. Unfortunately, there was no quorum at the SEMSCO, the council, so there was no council meeting, and none of this stuff got voted on. So the next meeting is in May, and hopefully there'll be a quorum, and some of the stuff will be voted on. The age of the EMT may or may not be complete by May, but we will keep you guys up to date. The May meeting, we need to postpone that 1 week, because currently it's the same date as the next CMAC meeting. And it's probably best we meet after the state meetings. So we're currently scheduled for the 15th and 16th. It looks like we're going to have to change it to the 22nd and 23rd. I hate to do that because I know you guys planned so far in advance, but it was just one of those times when everything came together incorrectly. So the May Finger Lakes REMAC meeting will be the 22nd and 23rd of May. Oh, sorry, it'll be the 22nd, I apologize. I go for 2 days when at these meetings. Okay. You don't? Okay. That's about all I've got. Like that? What's you here, Ron? Welcome. Anything new? Okay. How's your training center going?
Well,
Up and running?
yep, up and running. We have staff going in there each quarter. We have all our staff go through there, and they go through simulation and case review.
Okay. Any plans coming up to kind of open that up to the local region?
We'd like to.
We'd love to see it.
We can talk more about it.
Love to see it happen. Super. Mercy flag here? Okay. So the protocols were passed. Unfortunately, they didn't get voted on by SEMSCO, so that will be the next SEMSCO meeting. Finger Lakes ambulance.
Just,
Speak up.
federal bill, HR 3236, the Ambulance Medicare Budget and Operations Act coming up, for those who like to follow legislation. It will renew the 2% urban, 3% rural, and 7% super rural bump on the Medicare ambulance fee schedule. However, buried in the language, ambulance services would fall under cost reporting to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid and have to report annually on all kinds of additional paperwork. I know that the United New York Ambulance Network has come out with a statement saying they will not support it because of all the additional burden put on the ambulance services. So it's just something you may want to take back, take a peek at, and get a hold of your legislators.
Okay. Anything else from Finger Lakes?
From Finger Lakes.
One thing I forgot to mention for those of you that are not aware, Governor Cuomo, in his State of the State report, mentioned EMS for the first time ever, and actually discussed several topics, including community paramedicine, which is something that has never happened, certainly not by Cuomo, but certainly not by any of our previous governors. Is he just reaching out to the providers in New York State looking for votes, or is he really interested in helping us? It's hard to say, but it does give us something, a little bit of leverage to try and work with. If you get a chance, actually, if I get a chance, we'll get that out, because we have just that. We'll try and get it out to the members to look over. Instead of reading all 300-something pages of his report, we'll get you this stuff permanent. Can we get that out to our CMAC members, Nate? That would be great. Give you a chance. It's just a couple pages to read, but it's the first time we've ever seen that in his report, so that's maybe promising.
And
All right.
Our 2 DocMobiles should be on the road by the end of the month.
Yeah, a couple of weeks.
End of the month.
I gave Bob my shopping list yesterday. It might be a few more weeks.
All right, it's February.
Old business. Oh, I apologize. I'm moving ahead too fast. Jamie, do you have anything, or do either one of you guys want to report on? I know you're going to try to meet RSA today, but if you want to report today,
I don't think we've got anything to report because we were meant to be meeting in our
you guys are going to meet later. Yeah, advanced
We
practice.
could maybe, after the REMAC, maybe just gather for a few minutes.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Yeah.
We can get that out by email if there's anything to report back to the remake. Advanced practice, anything to report?
The major thing that we just want to discuss is, well, 2 things. First is that the committee has decided to form 2 tag groups. The first tag group would be starting a regional documentation standard. We are aware that some agencies do not use EMS charts, so we're trying to formulate just some language and some topics. Mostly we're going to focus on, I haven't sent it out yet, probably going to start on page 8, or what if it's page 8 on EMS charts, which is the treatment section. Try to get some uniformity in that, especially in the IV attempts, and med control, especially if they are diverted from a facility for whatever reason. We want to get some uniformity in that. And then the other tag group is to discuss the feasibility of a regional-wide clearing process. Whereas after you're cleared in the region, you're cleared pretty much at any agency in the region. The only other question that I had was brought up in my agency and a couple other people, was to discuss the shortage of normal saline that's coming out, and possibly, I don't know if it's a CMAC or a SEMSCO issue, but possibly the feasibility of lactated ringers.
Those are starting to go in back order too.
There'll be a shortage of everything, but certainly at the REMAC level, we could approve that if the group decided so. Does anyone have any objection?
So I'd actually ask that we've been having issues. I'm not sure how many people are having issues with epinephrine. Now, currently, hit and miss. Currently, if you go to the DOH website, there's a list of alternative formulations. So it says that for epinephrine, you can get the 30 milligram vial and make up. It's one vial per patient. You can't use it on multiple patients, but there's we have issues with epinephrine. We're having issues with MAG. We're having issues with steroids. Cardizem as well as another one. Interestingly, the Department of Health website says this list of alternative formulations expires in December 31st, 2013. So technically, there is no formulation.
I made that list of that year, so, although it should not have expired, I'm not sure why.
It says at the very top, this thing expired. And the only reason I know is because we looked at it yesterday because it's an epinephrine shortage and we have to do multi-dose epinephrine.
I would call Andy today and see if we can get that expiration date.
What I would like is, rather than every time we have a shortage, me having to call you, getting the okay, bring it to REMAT, get it approved, I would actually prefer if we just went down all the medications and just had a list of alternatives in the event that.
That's what that list was supposed to do. The bottom line is, it really comes down to the agency medical director level is really where this needs to stop. And if the agency medical director is comfortable, I've told my agencies, don't throw expired meds out. At least 3 months, I think we can add to those dates very safely, probably 6 or more. I'm telling them not to throw out expired bags right off the bat. There's no reason for that. If the containers are in good shape, there's no reason for stuff to be thrown out. I don't see any reason why we can't use some lactated ringers for some of our patients if that's available. And obviously, the most appropriate thing is just with IV solutions, use them when they're appropriate. Not everyone needs a running IV, and save the fluids for those that do. But you can call your service medical directors. If you can't get a hold of your service medical directors, call your regional medical director. I'm sure he'll give you an answer.
So could we just have a motion that just says that it'll be deferred to the agency medical directors and then it's in the record, and then I don't have to make a call every time?
You can get someone to make such a motion.
I will. I'll second it.
There you go. Does anyone have an objection to that? Everyone good with that? We're in a business right now where we just don't have a choice. Either we extend the life of these meds or we don't have them, period. We had issues before the hurricane wiped out Puerto Rico, and my understanding is 72% of the exports from Puerto Rico were pharmaceuticals. And we may never see that happen again, so this may be a long-term problem.
Didn't this happen to Bertilium years ago?
There is no more Bertilium.
Well, I know that, but it was because...
It was just because there was only a short amount of Bertilium. There wasn't a lot of Bertilium in the world, period.
Okay.
I mean, I think saline still exists, we just can't get it properly bottled.
That word.
I'm having palpitations.
I understand Dr. Surratt's going to stop packaging coffee and get into the sailing business.
I don't know, man.
I have information on a reverse osmosis machine you can have in your stomach.
There you
Hold
go.
a bag under it.
You want me to tell you a joke about that later?
Mike, can I just ask a question? You said that there was 2 tags. One was the documentation standards, and the other one was regional clearance.
Yep.
Don't we already have a regional clearance when you get your paramedic card in?
Well, I guess I should probably clarify that. It's probably like a regional clearance for agencies, so that if like I work in one agency, I don't have to re-clear at retrain in another agency. Does that sound right, Jason?
So the spirit of it is kind of like,
That's his tag group.
so I work at Victor Farmington, and I want to go get a job at like Madison Town, per se. I'm already practicing, and I've been cleared through this minimum set of standards at Victor Farmington, so I move over to Madison Town, and the spirit is to kind of get away from having to do, all right, I'm already working over here, now I'm coming over here to work part-time, I have to do 10 jobs to get cleared.
But that's not because I need to be worried about you clearing the system. I need to be worried about you knowing your stuff in that particular ambulance. Do they have Zoll versus LifePak? I mean, it's that sort of a clearance, which I don't see we can do at a regional level.
Which was going to be my next point, actually, that it's not to take away from agency orientation and agency clearance, but, you bounce from place to place, and some agencies, you come in the door regardless of your experience level. We've got to make sure that you meet this minimum standard that is really kind of...
However, that's set by the agency, correct?
Right. But
I mean, the only thing that I would say, the only flip side that I would say is we don't want to go backwards in standards. So what I wouldn't want is an agency going, well, we had a clearing process, but the region's doing it now, so we're just going to put anyone on the road, and we're not going to give them a clearing process.
Right.
That would be the flip side.
The spirit is to be a minimum clinical clearance process only, not to overshadow anything more or anything extra.
But I think the region already had a clearance process.
Yeah, I mean, if you come to me and you say, listen, I'm cleared through Victor Farmington and through the region because you've done the exam, I have no problem with you going to Wayne County, Canandaigua, and anyone else working as an ALS tech. You've cleared as an ALS tech. I have no problem whatsoever. What I have a concern with is that 3 o'clock in the morning when you're half asleep and you reach for the life pack and it's a Zoll, that you hit the discharge button instead of the charge button. You know, and just knowing the equipment, knowing the standard, the procedures. You know, you roll your ambulance at 3 in the morning. What ambulance am I in? Because it's the first time I've ever been in it. And you get the wrong information because you think you're at Road and Victor, and you know, just simple things like that. I think you need to do a minimum number of calls in that region with that new ambulance before you're comfortable, and we would be comfortable clearing you.
I believe the other part of the spirit of this discussion was going to be discussed hopefully at the RSI part also is providers that are cleared in other regions. I think that's another issue where there's looking for guidance for just, you know, because if somebody's got 20 years experience working in another region, you know, is it fair for them to do X number of calls just like somebody who hasn't been cleared, who has less experience? I think that was part of the spirit of the discussion that came out.
I mean, we've been pretty good. I think we've held the same spirit, so to speak, in that the air medical services have not gone through the same procedures because we know how much they get trained in their own services. We've not extended it to say, well, if you're an RSI tech in Monroe Livingston, is there a process to bring you into Finger Lakes? And that might be something to discuss at the RSI committee.
That's one of the issues that we're going to discuss.
Yeah, and I think that's appropriate. I would like to see reciprocity both ways, and I would sure like to see some med control orders out of Rochester that are appropriate, not inappropriate, but maybe I'm asking for too much. But
We had a lengthy discussion at the ALS meeting on this as well, and, you know, well, if Melrose doesn't want to, you know, on our folks that are cleared in the region, do we want to push back on theirs? And
No.
And frankly, no. I mean, we're only harming one.
two wrongs don't make it right.
Right, we're only harming one group of people if we do that to our patients.
I would love to see us have a process where if we've got someone from NOREMS who is experienced, who's a good provider, that we could bring them into our
It's the spirit of the collaborative
region.
protocols. It's medicine's really the sitting across that collaborative body.
And if we could get it to work both ways, it would be nice too. We have approached Monroe Livingston regarding med control. They've acknowledged that they received our request, and we've heard nothing back. So, so there was a motion made. There was some discussion. It was seconded. Any further discussion?
What's the motion?
Motion that you wanted to allow the agency director to have control.
I thought we did that one, sorry.
I don't think we voted on it, so just technically we should vote on it. Yeah. Basically, with these shortages, every week's going to be another shortage. There was a list that actually I provided for CMAQ. I don't know why it's outdated, but it's basically the same. The multi-dose vials of epi instead of the unit doses. We tried to come up with some possible alternatives. You know, if Decadron's not available, can we go back to, you know, Cytotec or, you know, or Cytomedrol, whatever we've got available, we've got to use. So, and instead of it becoming a big to-do, if we can keep it at the service level. And everyone's dealing with different providers, and different providers are very different in what they have available at different times. It's kind of interesting. I'd love to know the background on that one, but haven't figured it out yet. But anyway, looking for anyone that feels that's inappropriate. So if anyone does not want to see the agency medical director have that control, everyone's okay with it? All right. Collaborative protocols. Collaborative protocols did not meet at Troy this month. We will meet again in May. I have been pushing behind the scenes trying to get Toradol approved, and getting a lot of pushback on that. If anyone comes across a study that shows safety in pre-hospital use, I know it's being used elsewhere in the country, I know it's being used overseas, I cannot find an article. You could find me an article Do you guys still have access to the librarians? I don't have that access anymore. If one of you could put through a search, I would be indebted. I know it's safe. Guys, I mean, we all use Toradol. If you don't have a set of labs back and someone who looks healthy, are you cautious about? I mean, I don't want to. That's the wrong way of using it. Do you wait for your labs to come back before you give someone a dose of Toradol? You think is a healthy person, maybe has a kidney stone? I mean, I think if they're healthy, don't give me a story about previous renal function, they're not pregnant, I'm happy to give them a dose of Toradol.
Yeah, I think that if they have some evidence of moderate to high-grade hypertension, I would hold off. But, you know, we typically have been using 30 milligrams IV Toradol. Recent literature says 10 milligrams is probably as effective as the 30. So if you wanted to push that number, then somebody who's otherwise healthy, no underlying renal disease, that's entirely appropriate.
I just don't know of any cases that have come up recently. I've not heard about any. But if we get a little bit of literature to help support that, it might help.
Well, yeah, my comment is going to be the same, is that the dose probably could be lower than
I think we've all kind of done that for various reasons, not one of which obviously there's shortages of that too. But yeah, I would have to agree that the lower doses do work. Anecdotally,
Yeah.
I will tell you that 15 FeQ12 works wonders post-op. I've had it, and I knew when my 12 hours were up. When I had my 15 of Toradol, it worked very well. And I have a hard time people telling me Toradol doesn't work. So, but that's just anecdotally. So we'll keep pushing on that. If anyone has any other things they want me to bring up, I'll try. But I'm fighting Remo and Central New York, and they're turning out to be two very difficult opponents.
You know, feelings on nitrous. It is in the collaboratives. We've not done it locally. It would be a great, you know, just to move someone with a broken bone or something that you just want to give them a whiff of nitrous. It's not typically utilized. I was surprised that it made it into the collaborative protocols, but it is there.
To Remo carry.
It was, nitrous was popular in the 80s.
It's actually one of the, it's consistently used in Australia and Canada now for EMS, but objections.
There's a couple agencies in New York using that.
I don't have any major objections. I find it doesn't work. I've used it on patients, unless you give it truly at anesthetic doses in patients that are intubated. I haven't had much success with it. Anyone else that's had any use that has any feelings about it?
Never used it.
We don't. Like I said, it was kind of in favor maybe in like the 80s. Certainly safe in all patients, obstetrics, all across the boards. I just found that a lot of patients just didn't have a good response to it. On the other hand, if this group wants to have it available, if any of the services want to trial it, use it, if we want to discuss that and vote on it, I'm more than happy. I don't see any downside to it.
MDI in the collaborative, right?
It is various forms. I mean, the way that typically it's utilized is there's a large canister in the ambulance with a single-use mouthpiece valve.
Right.
It's self-administered, so in theory, if the patient does have a response to it, their holding the mask falls off and they don't overdose themselves. It's not held in place by a provider.
So that's a broken arm.
Maybe that's why it didn't work.
You know, in the current culture of the negative views of narcotic use across the board, I think it's an option that's worthwhile considering. I'm not sure it would be appropriate for every person, but I could see someone with renal colic that you're getting an IV in and they just have that spasm of pain, or someone with back spasms. It would give an opportunity for EMS to have another modality that they can utilize.
Kind of a shame that not 1, 2, or 3 services in the region would like to trial sort of a local study.
Okay. I think from a cost standpoint, it's very cheap.
Not the ABC trial.
What's that?
From a cost standpoint, it's very cheap, and actually, the mouthpiece is normally cheaper than the morphine doses and fentanyl doses.
Do we have to send something to you? Because my agency will do it.
Why don't we see if there's a couple services represented today like to trial it? So Richmond, Victor Farmington,
I put up Masterton Town. It really has to be ambulance.
Finger Lakes.
It has to be ambulance-based because it's typically a canister.
I mean, those are a couple busy agencies. That would give us some numbers in the next couple months. The only thing I would ask is if we put together a questionnaire for the provider to fill out. We got Finger Lakes, we got Richmond, we got Victor Farmington, and Massillon Town. I see another hand back there.
North Seneca.
North Seneca would provide a lot of numbers.
You don't want Canandaigua?
What's that?
Canandaigua's not with you?
You didn't raise your hand.
I didn't see anybody raise their hand.
This group moves fast. Canandaigua's interested?
That gives you 6 agents.
6 agencies.
I'll lead up the project if you want as a physician oversight.
Want to come up with some good questions, and we'll get the questionnaires out to providers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Everybody uses the EMS charts on that list.
Yes.
Well, I'm assuming that this is going to require the approval of our medical director. I see Dr. Talbot.
Dr. Talbot is in Cleveland today.
Yeah, Matt won't have an issue with it.
I can almost assure that.
I'll just email Ryan real quick.
Yeah, Ryan won't have an issue.
Anyone have any objections to that?
Do you approve Dr. David off for?
I approve. I think that would be a really nice couple of month project for people to work on.
No, but
I would
you
love
guys
to see some numbers
David
come
Waller
back and say that it's working.
It's already in the...
It's a collaborative.
But for, it's not a narcotic substance, it's already in
It's not a controlled substance. It's already in the collaborative protocols. So it's very easy for us to say, let's trial it and see what
You have
happens.
to seal it and things like that, though.
Right.
You can't just throw it on the grate with your mouthpiece hanging out.
It'll be sealed with the drugs and the loss.
All your providers be out there.
They'll get sealed when they all.
Like that, you guys don't carry it. And I know, well, unless something changed, I know Mr. Floyd they
So we
don't.
did
Because it's another contained gas, which would be an issue. I'm not sure I really like the idea of a pilot maybe accidentally getting into it, so.
If I contact you, you'll be able to give me
But
contact information.
it's very interesting to get some numbers back in the next few months. You guys get enough numbers back, put together a little article and send it into one of the journals.
Question.
Yeah.
Paramedic, ALS only or intermediate or AMT and higher? Because Cloud of Protocol say AMT and higher.
What does collaborative say?
AMT and higher. AMT and higher.
AEMT, and
Advanced.
really?
Yeah.
We gotta follow the collaborative.
Okay.
So that means that
Just doesn't say what dose though.
We don't have any. I think we've got 2 in the region.
Well,
There's 2 or 3 AEMTs in the region.
I have 2.
Victor Farmington, right?
Yeah. Sorry.
But 2 Cs and we're allowed to do it. You're all going to talk to your medical directors, your agency medical directors about education on this, right?
I'll send you our PowerPoint.
Send it to Jason.
It's not huge, but
I got to send my mouth protection and I'll send it to Jamie, that's fine.
I mean, seriously, probably the biggest point with this is you don't assist the patient.
Correct.
It's not a patient, it's not a provider-assisted delivery.
Yeah, I think that given that there's multiple agencies, everyone's pretty clean, pretty fast on getting back. It'd probably just be easier just to formalize it all just under one thing. I'll give every agency a letter to get a formal sign-off by their medical director. We want to try and all collect the same data and move ahead together, so it shouldn't take long to get off the ground and
No. And we should get some data back.
we'll all utilize the same supplier. Well, we probably should all use the same mode of administration, just agree that this is what we're going to do, so it's probably going to be one meeting to get everything from an operations standpoint off the ground, and then a start date, an education program and a start date. It can probably be very quickly done. I mean, it's not that difficult. Put mouthpiece in mouth, breathe.
This might be something appropriate for the Advanced Practices Committee.
Oh, they don't meet for 2 months.
Yeah, if you give me a lead point on someone on the advanced practice committee, I can work. I prefer to work with one person. You?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll deal with the physician standpoint. You can deal with all the work.
I'll reach out to my friends up at the North Country and see if they have any canned training for it already, and
Yeah.
that way we won't have to reinvent the wheel.
Good.
What do you think the response will be in the EDs when they see this coming in?
I think the response is going to be, when can we get that? To be honest with you, because as a quick grab and triage to put in someone's mouth, put a mouthpiece in, just breathe that till we get you round, or someone that's got contractions during labor, I think it's a good modality. Safe.
I'm personally very interested in seeing some results because, like I said, my personal usage of it in the past on patients has not been very good. So I'd like to see some results. It's really interesting.
It's kind of cool.
Good, guys. I like that idea. Very nice. Good for you. All right, physician credentialing, we're in the process of working on, so we'll hopefully have some more information back in May. All right, a couple of things. Yep. Got it all here. All right, so just for public record, Ontario Volunteer Emergency Squad is requesting to go back to EMS Church. And I think that's great. As well as Stanley Hall Gorham going back to EMS Church.
Also is moving back. I'm not sure if they sent, they didn't send.
We don't have anything from them, but that's wonderful, because 2 out of 3 are my agencies, and I'm very pleased. All right, so the big news is the EMS conference is coming up in February, and we had some really good talks scheduled here. Thank you, everyone who stepped up, if not this year, next year. So on Friday, starting off at 8 in the morning, the first track, A and B, is CPAP for Basics and Palliative Care. The next session says question OBGYN from F.F. Thompson. We have
Committed to, David said.
We're waiting to hear back which OB doctor's available.
Okay, all right. And if the OB docs aren't available, we may have to have one of the ED docs fill in from F.F. Thompson. And then diabetes session, a review, lunch, and then in the afternoon, lifting and geriatrics, sports injuries, respiratory/CHF. 5 to 6 is dinner, and 6 to 9 is a team building training officer session by Dan Batsy, our guest speaker. On Saturday, registration introductions. First session, we've got crime scenes, pediatric sepsis, VAD. We need to block out more time for this. And psychiatric emergencies. Okay.
Dr. Dave Ross doing that one.
Good choice. Followed by altered mental status, board and collar. Basically, Bill Hallahan's coming down to talk about the recent changes and how it's affected them at Strong. Session on stroke, and then endocrine talk, lunch, and then a session on DOH by Ross Estro, a session allergic reaction anaphylaxis, an ultrasound session, cool, hemorrhage control, neurological emergencies, assessing and treating autism, neonatal emergencies, and bad drugs. And then there's a roundtable wrap-up from 4 to 4:30. So those of you that are around or talking on Saturday, please stick around for that roundtable discussion in the afternoon. I don't want to be the only one there. We can, yes, definitely.
We haven't got it finalized yet, but
Okay.
as soon as we do,
The sessions, though, are pretty much.
we're pretty
Yeah.
much locked in. We just need a few more.
So I just need to know if this group is in, want to approve these sessions, so they can apply for CMA.
Right, we just need approval for this EME, correct?
Yeah. Anyone opposed to these? Any issues?
We need a motion.
We do need a motion, sorry. Second? All right, and we'll do a hand raise. All in favor? All right, any opposed? Unanimous. My attorney. We do have actually a very nice machine that it's a GE on a stand. It is a really, really nice machine. I would love to have it in my ED. We'll make sure that Donna has it available to you. I'm pretty sure we've got enough gel. We'll make sure we have enough. What are your thoughts? Who are you going to use for patients? So maybe we need to talk about some patients too. Okay, I'll talk with Donna. Or, Nate, are you going to be talking with Donna?
Yeah.
Because we'll need that machine available,
Good.
and I don't know whether she's got anyone lined up maybe as a couple of patients. See if we can find a home dialysis patient, a peritoneal dialysis patient. Oh, okay. Bad boy list. Well, in this case, bad girl. This is as a result of investigation conducted by the Department of Health. The following individual certification has been suspended for 18 months. The first 3 months are an actual suspension. The remaining are stayed. Let's see, must provide an alcohol evaluation within 3 months and comply with recommendations, if any. This is for violations of 10 NYCRR Part 800.16. The name of the patient is, or the provider is Kelly Omland, O-M-L-A-N-D, from East Islip, New York. So hopefully that's not a familiar name to anyone. And we don't need to worry about that in the Finger Lakes region. But this enforcement action is a matter of public record and should be read to the minutes of your next regularly scheduled meeting. No other bad boy girls? Wonderful. Any new business to bring forth? All right, motion to dismiss.
Motion.
All right. We can sit here all day, guys. All right, we're going to have an RSA